Hi, I'm Michael Sansolo, and welcome to Shopping with Michael. Cheese, it's in bags, sleeves, cups, and tubs in the refrigerated section, in wheels or loaves in the deli, and is a key ingredient in all types of fresh, frozen, and packaged items, from ready-to-eat meals to entrees to salad dressing. And we love it wherever it is. Shoppers are increasingly exploring new varieties, and they're eating more cheese than ever. Many supermarkets are now offering specialty cheese islands right in the middle of the store. More about cheese right after this.
Billy works in a supermarket. He helps stock the shelves. One day, Billy figures out that there are 120,000 different items in a big modern supermarket. When he divided the number of items he usually stocks in a day into the total number of items in the store, he realized that it would take him nearly 4 years to get the job done. Of course, Billy is only responsible for the store brands, so his job is easier. There are thousands of store brand foods, beverages, snacks, health and beauty, kitchen and household products. Each store brand with quality comparable to the national brands, but less expensive. Billy smiled. Restocking store brands is a lot easier.
Cheese is the original portable protein, known around the world since prehistoric times. But we've evolved since the days of transporting it across the desert in goatskins. We now have supermarkets, and when it comes to buying cheese at the supermarket, picking out a wedge or a bag of slices seems like an easy task, right? A quick stroll past the dairy aisle, the cheese section, quickly suggests otherwise, though. Cheese is not just cheese. There are a surprising number of options, and if deciphering all of the terms on those labels feels confusing, trust me, you're not alone. We're pleased to be joined today by Erika Kubick, who will serve as our guide through the world of cheese. Erika is a cheesemonger turned cheese preacher. What an interesting turn of phrase that is. And she is devoted to turning on cheese lovers through her blog, Cheese, Sex, Death. Welcome, Erika. It's great to have you here. And what an interesting topic to be involved with. I have to tell you, I struggle with cheeses because there are so many choices these days. I want to start with the basics. I know there are cow cheese, sheep, goat. What is the basic difference of the three?
That's a great question. So it really depends on what you're looking for. As far as goat's milk cheeses, you can always expect a tart flavor, very, very white. They're always really light colored, as opposed to cow's milk cheeses, which tend to have a more buttery yellow color. And then sheep's milk cheeses tend to be quite nutty. So you'll always have like a slightly like toasted almond flavor to a sheep's milk cheese, except for the really fresh ones. Those have a little bit more of like a tart lactic feel, just like the goat's milk.
So if we're having people over at the house and we want to have a little cheese platter,
yeah,
you recommend we kind of mix it up so we'll get all the different flavors?
Absolutely. I think variety is key when serving cheese to people. You want to have a mix of textures, of milk types, of ages. So it's really nice to start with a fresh cheese. It's the mildest. You always want to start your tasting there anyway. And then maybe have something that's like firm and grateable, like a Gouda, or and then maybe something that's like fudgy and a little bit more intense, like a blue cheese.
Fudgy, really? So which?
Oh yeah, blue cheeses are almost always a little bit fudgy.
We don't think about them as fudgy.
Similar texture to chocolate fudge. It crumbles the same way and it melts in your mouth too.
All right, I'm a baby boomer, you're not, so you're gonna help me on this, because for us baby boomers, we grew up in the era of, we bought blocks of cheese, it was American cheese, slices or whatever. When did this happen? When did we move from just these plain cheeses to all these choices I now see in the store? There are cheese islands. There are cheese everywhere I go in the store. When did that happen and why did it happen?
You know, I think it started with the Back to the Earth movement when people started making their own products or making their own food products themselves. One of the big revolutions that happened in the cheese industry was with the American goat ladies. It was several different female cheesemakers.
American goat
yes,
ladies.
That's what we call them in the industry.
Maybe that was a rock group I missed somehow. Yeah.
I wish. Maybe someday. Basically, it was a group of women who were across the country, and they each got goats just to feed their families and started making their own cheeses, and they have since evolved into some of the biggest cheese makers in the country. So that includes Cypress Grove, Vermont Creamery. Those are really well-known names. Laura Chanel, there's tons of them. But they all kind of started together, and what's really cool is that they're all really good friends.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, so they're the mothers of the artisan cheese movement.
Are there geographic differences? Are parts of the country more likely to eat certain kinds of cheeses than other parts of the country? Are there still parts that are just eating American cheese, or has that threat? Is it national that we're all trying these different cheeses?
Well, with the locavore movement, people are very interested in finding things that are coming from their own community, and luckily there are so many artisan cheesemakers that are popping up all over the country. So you're going to see a very wide variety. Usually there's a little bit more of goat's milk cheeses in the South because it can be too hot for cows. But then Wisconsin, of course, is like all about the cow. But there's still goats and sheep in Wisconsin as well. So it's a variety.
What's the most popular cheese in the United States?
Oh, definitely cheddar.
It's cheddar.
Well, it might be cheddar or low moisture mozzarella, which is pizza cheese, but that's really because of the pizza itself versus like actually going to the store and buying a cheese. It's usually cheddar.
Are there cheeses that we're using wrong, that we may be all buying, but there are ways that we could be eating them, serving them, that we're not thinking of doing?
That's a hard question to answer. I'm not sure if there's really a wrong way to eat cheese.
Okay.
And as long as you're eating it, you're doing something right. But one of my favorite tips is that you should always eat cheese at room temperature because the cold can really dull the flavors and alter the texture. So it can make cheeses a little bit more brittle versus having that smooth, giving, more buttery melt in your mouth
So
texture.
before I have this dinner party that I'm going to have, I'm going to be great on serving cheeses after this.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like wine. You want to give it time to breathe. We want to take it out of the
Absolutely.
fridge, get it up to room temperature.
I really love that you said breathe because cheese is actually a living organism. So it does need oxygen and proper airflow and the right amount of humidity in order to stay healthy.
And probably it'll make it taste better.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, because probably a lot of us don't think to do that. So just as we want to do with a bottle of wine, open it, let it get some air in it, breathe, because these are living things. Bring the cheese out of the fridge early if you're having a dinner party or something. Set it out, and that way by the time the company comes over, it'll be easier to cut and it will taste a whole lot better.
Exactly. I usually recommend 20 minutes for like a really soft, fresh cheese or a brie, and then more closer to 40 minutes for a harder cheese, like say a Parmigiano. You could leave that up for up to an hour. It'll be
What's
fine.
the difference between soft cheeses and hard cheeses?
It's age.
Okay.
So fresh cheeses, soft cheeses, a fresh chev that hasn't been aged at all. I mean, maybe it's probably been made a couple weeks ago and then stored in vacuum sealed plastic to keep it from developing a rind or anything. And then harder cheeses like a Parmigiano, the way it's made is they produce it so that it can age longer. And that basically means they remove as much of the liquid as possible. So when they're making it, they cut the curds into like tiny little pieces so it can drain more liquid and then pack it on top, put it all together, and it ages more and loses more moisture.
It's incredible. And I know with the stores I shop at, the cheese island has just become magnificent. There are so many choices in there. If I'm trying to branch out and become more exciting in the cheeses that I'm consuming, do you have recommendations, places to start?
Oh, totally.
Okay, so how do I start out?
So I always recommend looking for something that's familiar to you and then looking for something that's a little bit, that looks similar to that but is different. So for example, if you're very comfortable with a manchego, you can recognize that weave pattern that's on the outside. You'll know that's manchego. But there's several different cheeses that are very similar to a manchego that look the same. You know, if you're at the cheese island, you can compare them. And if that one looks similar, maybe try that one. See what the differences are. You want to work a little bit outside of your comfort zone without getting overwhelmed.
Is there another cheese that you see out there that over the next couple of years you'll see in our supermarkets that we're all like manchego, that we didn't know that now is everywhere? It's in all kinds of recipes.
Absolutely. So one of my favorite styles of cheese is a spruce wrapped cheese. The original is called Vacherin Montdior. It's made only in the late autumn when the cows stop eating the fresh grasses and they start transitioning to a drier feed. It makes winter milk, which is much fattier. So usually they would have the fresh grass cheese turn into Comté, the famous French cheese Comté. And then the winter milk is made into this cheese called Vacherin, and it's so fatty and rich that it tends to liquefy when it's made into a cheese. So they wrapped it in spruce bark, and it imbues this like piney, woodsy, like bacony flavor. So this is a cheese style that's coming up all across the country. So many people are making their own versions of it. So you're definitely going to be seeing it a lot more. The best way to serve it, you buy the whole wheel. Kind of expensive, but it's definitely worth it. You want to heat it up a little bit so it kind of feels like a waterbed underneath. It's like super gooey. Take off the top and dip in potatoes. Instant
Dip in
appetizer.
potatoes,
Roasted
really?
potatoes. I go French fries, but you don't have to do that.
Okay, we can do that. Wow. And it's obvious that you are into cheese. You're passionate about your cheese, which is
my life.
fabulous, Erika. Wow. I got to ask this one. Does Swiss cheese all come from Switzerland?
Yes. Okay. Well, there can be Swiss style cheese, so people will make cheese within the Swiss style or within Alpine style, A lot of times when people refer to Swiss cheese, that they refer to an Alpine style, but that can include Comté, it can include Gruyere. It's really, or Fontina, all those cheeses are made in the Alps, but a lot of them are made on the Swiss side, where, that's where fondue comes from.
All right, and let's deal with the biggest question that everybody always has. Why are there holes in the Swiss cheese?
Oh, it's a gas. So while the cheese ages, there's a gas that forms and makes these little bubbles.
Okay, so you've answered. I mean, that's the question that's probably puzzled everyone through all these generations.
Definitely.
Erika, that is great stuff. And I understand we're going to come right back with Erika. We're going to taste a couple of cheeses, so you're going to help me become a better cheese consumer. We'll be right back after this.
Rich people know all about quality. They spend lots of money to get it. But you don't have to be rich to get the quality you want in your everyday shopping. That's because store brands from your favorite supermarket, drug chain, or mass merchandiser give you comparable ingredients, taste, and performance at prices that beat the national brands all the time. Of course, you have to be a smart shopper. Try the store brands. Use them at home, compare products and results. And of course, enjoy the savings. Maybe that's why so many rich people buy store brands too. Store brands, the smart way to get quality.
Welcome back. We've had an interesting discussion today with Erika Kubick, who is our expert on all things cheese. And Erika, you have explained so much to me about all the choices I've got today in my supermarket, but now we're going to get it tricky because I don't have a wide palette when it comes to cheeses. And as you can see, we've got 4 different cheeses here. You're going to help me understand what I'm tasting and why I should get excited about these different cheeses. So if you would, tell us what we've got here and what are we tasting for? And by the way, is there something I should have served on the side? Am I missing wine? Is there?
You really only need the cheese. It speaks for itself. But if you do want to add something, I always recommend adding honey. It goes with every single cheese. All cheese is a little bit salty, so adding a little bit of sweet contrast. Plus, it's really fun to drizzle it on top. It's a more interactive experience.
Wow.
As far as beverage pairings go, usually people do the wine. Great choice, that's fine. But I recommend beer and cider instead. And the reason why I say that is because wine, especially red wine, has tannins in it. That tends to dull your palate, which means you can't taste the cheese as well. But beer and cider has bubbles, which cleanses your palate, and that preps your palate for another bite of cheese.
Okay.
So bubbles too.
I'm bought in on all of that. All right, why don't we get down to taste testing?
Cool. So I have a wide variety in front of us. Of course, I always say that a variety is key in a cheese plate. So we have a fresh goat cheese. This is unaged. We have like a young Parmesan style that's been coated in black pepper, especially good with honey. And then we have Iberico, very similar to a Manchego, but Manchego is made with sheep's milk, and this is cow, goat, and sheep's milk. So everything plays a part, brings something different to the table. And then we have a kind of like a brie, but it's a blue cheese as well. It's like a perfect hybrid between a brie and a blue cheese.
And I think an important point, you got all of these at supermarkets.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the supermarket cheese shop has the kind of variety that anybody, even a cheesemonger like yourself, will be very satisfied with what they find. All right, so where do we start?
Always start with the fresh cheese. Always is the mildest, and if you start with the strongest cheese, which is usually the blue, that'll blow out your palate and you won't be able to taste the complexities in the fresh one. So definitely start with this guy. I always recommend serving every cheese with its own knife. You can go grab that.
Okay. Well, I have to eat this big a piece of every one? This is going to be
You don't
very
have
filling
to.
by
Don't
the
you
end.
want to, though?
I do, but we have to eat 4 of them.
That's true. Not usually a problem for me.
All right, what do we say instead of cheers? Cheese?
Cheese.
Cheese.
Always smell it first before you eat it. The cheese has a lot to say. There's so many different flavors going on. So I recommend looking at it, smelling it, and then also tasting it. And taste it by itself before you add in pairing.
And the smell, I actually detected a little bit of fruitiness to it.
Absolutely, totally. Goat's milk cheeses tend to have a lot of fruity characteristics. I usually get lemon. Sometimes I get herbs, especially goat's milk cheeses that were made in the spring. The goats aren't being milked year-round for the most part. Some creameries do milk them year-round, but when they start eating the fresh grass in the spring, that is usually the start of the cheese-making season, and those are sometimes the best cheeses.
This is delicious cheese. I'm not going to eat the whole thing because we are going to have to do 4 of these.
That's okay.
So
Completely
I'm going to put it down here on my napkin.
Same.
So where are we going next?
All right, next we're going to do this young Parmesan style with the black pepper.
Okay. And again, different knife for each one, so we're not carrying the flavor
Yeah, you don't
want
want to mix
next.
flavors.
Okay.
So this one does have a rind on it. It's totally okay to eat. I actually really love it with the rind.
Well, I'll give you the rind piece then.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Not that I mind it. Smell this one also?
Very nutty.
And Parmesan, because I think a lot of us are used to getting Parmesan in that container, we shake it on things. But Parmesan is a great cheese just to eat on its own.
Absolutely. I love chunking it up into like big, like snackable pieces and then pairing it with something sweet, or candied nuts with Parmesan are absolutely awesome.
You must make a wicked macaroni and cheese in your house.
You wouldn't believe.
Oh, that is very good. Now, when we get to the Iberico, I think you said, notice it's got a very patterned rind.
Yes.
Which you had said before about the manchego.
Yes.
Is this something specific to the Iberian Peninsula, to Spanish cheeses, or why is it like this?
It's the manchego style. So they age it, or they mold it in a basket, which is what causes that weave. It's just a classic practice.
Okay, let's have some manchego, or some Iberico.
Iberico. So very similar to manchego. The biggest difference is that it's made with a mix of milks, like I said before. I know it's also a big piece. I can't help
that's all right. I told you I'm not going to eat the whole pieces.
It's totally cool. You can cut the rest of it up and make mac and cheese with it.
Or great grilled cheese sandwiches.
Absolutely. This one's actually really good with almond butter and jam and a grilled cheese. It's one of my favorite recipes.
Almond butter on it.
It's a little out there, but it's delicious.
And this is a very mild cheese. Probably the most
Super
mild
approachable.
of the three we've had so far. All right, so now we're
this
going to
would be-
finish strong.
Yeah, absolutely. So your blue cheese, always save it for last because it is the strongest. I also, when cutting a cheese that's like this, I like to cut it all the way down the triangle. That way you get to have a little bit of every part of the cheese. You want to have a little bit of the rind in there.
You like to cut the biggest pieces of cheese.
I'm giving you a smaller one this time. So you get a little bit of that blue.
Now, this is the one that's going to be fudgy. You promised me
Yes,
fudge before.
this is
Okay.
fudgy.
I'm not smelling fudge.
Well, you're definitely going to get it more in the texture. It can't taste like chocolate. That wouldn't be cheese.
You make a promise. I expect you to keep it. Oh, it's very buttery. Wow.
Great holiday cheese. Little fig preserves with this.
Now, by the way,
Fabulous
if I put this
appetizer.
on a holiday platter, because you talked about beverages, are there certain kinds of crackers? Should it be a milder cracker
Yes,
so it's not fighting the
absolutely.
taste?
100%.
And how about olives or grapes or other
Yeah,
things to
I
go on
like
the
to
side?
do one accoutrement per cheese. That way it's not overwhelming, but there's still enough room to play around with. I also love to have some like rosemary on the plate. Smells really good, adds a pop of color.
And it gives a different color, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just looks really pretty under the cheese.
Thank you, Erika. That was great once again because you not only instructed us on all the different kinds of cheeses we can buy, you got me to taste some cheeses I don't ordinarily eat, and I have to tell you, I found all of them to be delicious. You gave a great instruction on that. Let's keep in mind that as a key ingredient in food, as well as all by itself alone on the table, cheese complements everything. And as increasing numbers of Americans snack, more cheese will be consumed because it's easy to serve and it's nutrient dense. Cheese is a great convenience food. We'll see you next time on Shopping with Michael.